Hi there, Dave Levine here. Thanks for joining me for this special episode of the Sports Stories podcast. This is episode number 33 and dedicated to the great work and charity that my guest has just completed an incredible challenge for. That is Rob Burrow and the Motor Neurone Disease Association. Yes, and my special guest is therefore Kevin Sinfield MBE. I'm delighted to have Kev with me only a couple of weeks from completing 7 marathons in 7 days, all in under 4 hours with a group of close mates, all in aid of the MND Association and Rob Burrow. For those who don't know Rob has a close friend and teammate of Kev's for many years at Leeds Rhinos and has been diagnosed with this cruel disease. I'm really excited and honoured to have Kev with me today to talk through some of his past and also how this has influenced and impacted on him over the past year. I know Kev is a giver and a helper, and I know he won't disappoint in being honest with his insights and reflections. So, go grab a cuppa, find some time for yourself, plug in your headphones, or do whatever you do when listening to your podcasts. You may want to jot some of your reflections or takeaways down, so why not go grab a pen? Kev and the team have currently raised over £2.6 million for MNDA, and if you haven't already donated and wish to do so, then please have a look at the show notes or a link to the Just Giving page. Every pound I know is really appreciated. So let's dive in and let me give a very warm welcome to my special guest on today's Sports Stories podcast, Mr. Kevin Sinfield MBE, also referred to by some as Sir Kev. Kev, thanks for joining me on the Sports Stories podcast. You know, I appreciate your time's been pretty manic over the last few days or so and the last year. Just as a kick-off, what a year, what a last couple of weeks. How are you, mate? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Still sort of buoyed by the last month in particular. Work has been incredibly challenging throughout the year, as it has been for everybody. So I think for us as a club to continue with those improvements that we've made to win the Challenge Cup, to make the playoffs, albeit it was a very different playoff to what we set off back in February with. So our young players have been outstanding. I do feel we've made some huge improvements, especially from sort of a cultural environment perspective. I think we've made some massive gains. Yeah. But then the last month has sort of been incredible, as you know. So but I'm really, really good. Really, really content. And I've just had the best week of my life. So a bit of that is you miss it. You miss.
Right.
You miss that interaction, that day-to-day excitement of running and laughing and having a good time together, but also understanding that, the wave of support behind the awareness we generated, the money we generated, was always going to make a huge difference. So to be able to, especially in the run up to Christmas now, because it's such a special time, and I fully believe it's about giving. So for our team to be able to do that for 7 days and still to be, I suppose, riding the good vibes that came from that has been great. It's been a great December. Yeah.
Well, Kev, for you to say it's been one of the best weeks of your life and to follow a career you've had, it must have been some special week as well, given that, you've had some pretty high highs as well throughout your career as well.
Yeah, I've been extremely lucky. I played in some wonderful teams and got some great memories, but you sort of think throughout that journey, the satisfaction that you've had at different times, but I've probably had nothing that has given me the satisfaction like that those 7 days did, and what's come after that. Just because when you're playing and you win trophies, you make a difference, but it's a very, very difference to where we find ourselves now in that MND community, helping our good mate Rob.
Yeah.
But the work with the MND Association and sort of the widespread feeling of providing a little bit of hope for that MND community that have suffered for so long. I never got that from rugby. You can't get that from winning trophies and rugby. You can get it from within your team. You help people and you get satisfaction from that, and you understand that your performances affect the mood of your supporters and your spectators and your partners and corporates. But this is very different. this is very different. So
did you know that before you took on the challenges? You know, the satisfaction, the kind of difference in feeling?
No, I think I've done a number of things, different things for charity since I finished playing, and they've been really important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, to give something back, to be able to try and use whatever profile was left from your playing career and use it in a good way to help people. But then I think also selfishly as well, I think there's got to be, I spoke to this a fair bit to my wife in the aftermath of this, because selfishly, I think you've got to have some drive and some willingness to take your body somewhere and really test yourself, albeit it's for a brilliant cause, but there's a selfish part of that what you still really want to test yourself. And that's what the 7 in 7 gave me. It gave me an opportunity to really challenge myself, to really see if, when thrown back in that team environment with those 5 other brilliant mates of mine, can we still deliver something that's special? So it was twofold, and absolutely, it was brilliant. When you combine the two, it's so powerful, Dave.
Yeah. For me, as a kind of watching in from afar, and also just seeing the response, it's been an amazing event and an amazing journey just to share it with you, actually, and to be on side and see. But you know what I'm curious about is also digging back a little bit deeper and seeing, you know, the person Kev, you know, the person that's come through this, and how you've come to this place and this way of thinking. And you know, it's been quite some journey. So can I go back? There's a quote that's been attributed to you, and there's been lots of quotes that's been attributed to you in the press and so on over the last, you know, month or so. But one of them was, you know, not all heroes wear capes. And you know, if we look at you as a hero, okay, look, you've done something that really mattered to you and your mate and a group of friends as well. Going back into your childhood or back into your early days in sport, how did you grow some of these characteristics? Where do they all come from?
Yeah, I think to start with, you know, it's a lovely thing that's certainly been put our way. You know, I don't view anything what we did earlier this month as heroic. We're just trying to help a mate. And yeah, it might have been a different version of trying to help a mate, you know, doing 7 marathons, but actually it was just something we really wanted to do as well. So to have that thrown at us is brilliant. You know, really, really kind. We loved every minute of it. If you're asking me to think back of how and why, I couldn't tell you. I had a normal upbringing. I've got an older brother and older sister. She had a bedroom with my older brother till we were 15, so he clearly had a huge influence on me. He's 3.5 years above. Sister's 5.5 years above. So of course they had a huge influence on me. And then my parents have such an impact on you those early years, and then still do now. So and then probably, you know, 20 years ago tomorrow I first met my wife, so the impact she's had on me, you know, and the support that they've all given me, but especially the last 20 years, you know, my wife in particular has seen some really tough moments for me in my career, but also absolutely been there no matter what. So if you're asking me what brought me, probably a combination of all those people and those friends as well, those friendships I've had of my close friends. You know, I've been very lucky that the friends I've surrounded myself with, if you like, and I didn't unpick them, you end up friends with people who are, don't you? But you know, there's an old saying I use quite a bit from one of my old coaches used to say to us, but if you lie with dogs, you'll get fleas. And it's so true. And so that group of friends you end up being close to is probably really important to how you shape and how you grow and how you improve. And I don't know, if I'm honest, Dave.
What did they bring, that group of friends? Because it's a phenomenal story again. And, you know, I smile when you say about, you know, you don't choose your friends, or do you choose your friends? What do you think that group have really brought to you?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure, Dave. I think they've probably helped me grow and helped me improve in different ways. And I think you're constantly learning. And I think if you surround yourself with the right people and good people, you're constantly picking up good good traits, and you're constantly picking up good habits, and they just help. And whether that's even subconsciously, I'm sure there's things that, especially a lot of my teammates throughout that period will have done. And you learn very quickly. I've done it a couple of times throughout my playing career, some personality profiling.
Right.
It was something we did at the club in January, and with all the players and staff, just to get an idea and let people understand each other a little bit more. And what came out of some of those meetings was quite funny, because if you look at my older brother, we are chalk and cheese. We're very, very different. Both played rugby and shared a bedroom for 15 years, but completely different people. And so one of the questions that was going through my head is, why are we so different? If we've grown up in exactly the same family, but we're so different. And sort of the answer I searched and got was that actually the closer you are in age with one of your siblings, the more different from a personality perspective you are. And that's just because you find your own space in your own family. And if you're too samey, then you probably don't get the attention. Now, all this is subconscious. Of course it is, because as a kid, you're not learning this, are you? You're just making your path.
You're making it up,
But certainly, I learned so much from my older brother. A lot of it was how to do things right, but a lot of it was also, actually, if I just do what he's done, I'm going to end up with that outcome. So let's learn. Let's learn. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to my brother at all, because he was a great big brother, and still is. But as a kid growing up, you learn very, very quickly, don't you?
Well, or you do, and I think that's what I'm really curious about, is that you've built in this mentality, haven't you, around learning from your experiences. Yes, we all do, but it's whether we act on them, I think. And what's become really clear here is that you were quite conscious quite early on here, weren't you, in terms of actually what's going on and how do I perform, how do I turn up. And when did that kind of performance kind of mentality drip into the way you do things and your sport?
I've got a couple of sort of vivid memories as a kid from rugby, and they probably, I laugh about it now because I ended up being a captain for most of my career.
Right.
But it came from one day at Oral St James in a Lancashire trial. I know the day. I can put myself back there tomorrow. Today, I can be right there back now. But
what was it about that day?
So I had the year before. I mean, this is daft because it's under 10s, this, right?
Yeah, no.
It's under 10s, but I played under 9s and got picked for Lancashire. And back then they had a lot of rep rugby.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of debate whether rep rugby is right or wrong, but it absolutely was brilliant for me, Dave.
Yeah.
So we had a decent amateur side at Waterhead. We had 4 or 5 players picked in this Lancashire side, which is a combination of, at the time, Wigan, Warrington, St Helens, Widnes, Leigh, all players from around that northwest region.
Yeah.
And we go up to Hull to play Yorkshire and Humberside, and just in a rep game, right? It's under 9s.
Yeah.
And I'm picked on the bench. And my mum and dad are absolutely made up because little Kev is playing for Lancashire. And I got on for about 3 minutes at the end. And I remember that coach journey on the way home thinking, if I've got to come up here next year, I'm not going to be on the bench. I'm going to be playing. So the following year, we go for a Lancashire trial at Oral St James. And you're all broken up into players from different teams. So there's some there's some you don't really know, some you've played against.
Yeah.
And I'm a year older and I'm a year better. And I look at my team that I've been placed in, and I think, we're going to get whooped here. So I've got to try and do something about it. And I thought, right, well, I've got to get the best out of all these around me. Because if they do their jobs right, I'm going to shine here today. And this is at 10.
10, I know, amazing.
So I spent the whole trial encouraging, talking, as well as trying to do my best when I had the ball and defence and stuff. But spent the whole time just talking to people, encouraging, patting them on the back. Get picked in this Lancashire team. Following week, get made captain. That was it. I captained Lancashire for the next until I signed pro, until I left playing representative rugby. Under 16s, and then I moved to Leeds in the academy. And I think because when you get signed, I'm captain of a team, you get captain of Lancashire, captain of England schoolboys. straight away you join the academy, you're thrown in, you're captain of the academy, and it was like, well, and I mean this seriously, within 3 or 4 years, I'm captain of Leeds Rhinos, and do that for 13 years, you end up being captain for England, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that day, when I was 10 at Oral St James, if that had been a different day, would my path have been the same? Now, nobody will know, but I don't think it would. Bizarrely, I don't think it would have been the same.
And Kev, that day when you were 10, did you work that out? Do you think the fact that you needed to make a difference and you needed to encourage everybody, or did somebody help you begin to realise that you needed to become a captain or a leadership figure?
No, I did that. Yeah. Like I had a brilliant upbringing, 2 like really strong parents, really driven parents, but normal working class. Do you know what I mean? Dad was an electrician.
Yeah.
My mum had a different number of roles. You know, she was a cook at Oldham Hospital for a while. Then she had a sort of a clerical role at Oldham Hospital. Then moved into other secretarial bits and pieces. So, you know, just a normal upbringing for a kid from Oldham. So I couldn't tell you how or why.
Yeah.
I think having an older brother and older sister helps. I think you mature very quickly and you learn very quickly. I think you have to. You know, being the youngest, and that certainly helped me. I'm also a September birthday.
Okay.
So you realise that you get a better start, whether you like it or not. You do. You get a better start at school, and I always found I was always comfortable with people my own age group, but I was always really, really comfortable with people who are older as well.
Right, because you've also had that experience of being with olders, I guess, from within the family. Yeah. So there was a flexibility there, wasn't there, in terms of being able to adapt to the environment and the people around you.
Yeah.
But there's something also there for me in terms of a work ethic, isn't there? What's underpinned your journey through sport? You know, what would be the key attributes do you think you bring to the work you do now and how you perform?
Probably took me a while to be able to put them into words and say, this is what I stand for, but absolutely hardworking right at the top, being honest and having humility. They're the 3 I've sort of built my career around. So the hard work probably stemmed from, I've spoke about this quite a bit, but I was fortunate enough to play for Oldham schools against Dewsbury and Bartlett under 11s before a Challenge Cup final at the old Wembley. Yeah. And I remember being sat sort of, I played for Lancashire for a couple of years, and I'm sat after we played out in Wembley, we won, and I'm sat watching Wigan v Castleford in this final, 1992. And I'm looking on the crowd and thinking, well, there's 70,000 people here. This could be a job, could it? So sort of at that point, it's early, and it probably shows my maturity back then, but sort of think to myself, right, well, it looks all right, this to me, and if I can play rugby for a career, I'm going to throw everything at it. And I still worked as hard as I could at school, and still made sure that I had a plan B. But from that moment, I thought, right, well, I'm not going to have any excuses. And if I'm not good enough, or I get injured, or a coach don't pick me, or it doesn't work out, I'll be able to live with myself, because I've had the courage to go, I'm going to absolutely go for this. So I suppose that was the big drive. And I knew that, to be able to get anywhere, I had to graft. I'd seen that from my mum and dad. I knew you had to work hard. So that was probably inbuilt in me right from the start. I had some wonderful sort of junior coaches. Right. Usually a mate's dad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
When you start out. But we're very, very fortunate. He's still one of my good mates now, Chris Huff, but his dad, Mick, coached us right the way through. And probably saw the dedication he had to us. He was a semi-pro player. He was a long-distance lorry driver. He'd drive up to Aberdeen most weekends, Saturday night, get back Sunday, 7 a.m, no sleep, and come and coach us as kids. So I think you sort of understand and see that as well, and you go, well, if somebody's willing to put that work into us as a group, and then we should repay it. We should repay it.
Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it, that sort of the people around us who influence us and what we learn from them, and what we pick up from them. And I think in the role you play now, and myself in the world of sort of coaching and people development, it's so important, those influences, and we learn good and bad things, don't we, from the people around us. So you know, I think it's recognizing, and I guess I also parallel that with the job of being captain. You know, the role model that you set, and the tone and the character and the culture you set within the environments you play.
Yeah. We got very lucky. I got so lucky in my time at Leeds because of the outstanding leaders that were around me. And if you get a group of people who are very similar in mindset and who've all got a common goal, they all understand that they're going to have to work hard, and they all understand that they've got to go through a bit together before they're going to start getting some rewards for it as a group. I think you have something really special, and we had that. You know, I'll name a few now. You know, if you start with some of the coaches I played under at Leeds, you know, Darryl Powell, Tony Smith, Brian McClellan, Brian McDermott. At the end, who's my absolute favourite. You know, and he did a wonderful job.
Why would you say he was your absolute favourite at that point in time? What was it that connected with you at that time?
I just think captain-coach relationship. We had a real strong friendship and trust. I know that got probably derailed a little bit during 2015, during that rough period. But I think that's normal. I think that's normal that most players and a coach would have something that they disagreed on, and you know, somewhere along the path. And you know, fundamentally, if he didn't think I was playing well enough, and I thought I was playing well enough to be in the team, there's a difference of opinion. So I understand that as well. I was always able to put myself in someone else's shoes and get it. So coaches were wonderful, but that relationship with him was very strong and still is, which is great. Yeah. And then from sort of a player perspective and leader perspective, you know, I'm very lucky. My sort of early years travelling over from Oldham to Leeds were with Barry McDermott and Iestyn Harris. Right. Iestyn was a captain at Leeds, and Barry was 9 years above me. He just became a big brother and a big protector, I suppose. But you're in and around players like, if I reel some names off, Adrian Morley, Francis Cummins. We signed an Australian called Mark Glanville, who had a huge impact on me. Gary Mercer. And then as sort of the years went on, Jamie Peacock, Danny Badeiras, Jamie Jones, who's my best mate, Danny Maguire, Rob Burrow, Keith Senior, Ali Lawatiti, Kylie Luluai. I could keep going here. So someone's going to say, oh, you missed my name out. But honestly, that team was just full of outstanding leaders and outstanding people. And
when you say leaders and people, because what's really coming to me is that, you know, there's a lot of good people and they'll all be different, won't they? What is it that they're bringing to you?
Well, I think I mentioned it before in probably three of my values, if you like. Humility, so understanding that these players have so many strengths, and they are stronger than me in a lot of other areas. So having the humility to say, please step up, you get this bit.
And I don't, or I need some help here.
Yeah, and be able to share in it and understand that actually this isn't going to be a leadership where one bloke stands in front and is pointing a finger and yelling at people. This has got to be all of us in it together, and understand that we all got a role to play. And I think if you think of it like our basic vitamins and minerals that we all need, there's some we need more than more. Yeah. But there's bits that without elements of iron or vitamin D, at the minute we're not getting much of it, have we? Yeah. So if you're missing those bits from your diet, your body doesn't perform like it should. So if you think of a team, you have all the full spread of vitamins and minerals in the right percentages, you make sure that the team or the body works like it should. And I always felt that mix was really important. The young players coming through, the experienced players, and then how people were made to feel in the dressing room, the fun we had, off the field, how we operated, how we celebrated, things like that were really, really important.
Kev, you mentioned a minute ago about, you know, some of the tough times as well, and that's been part of the journey, you know, and I think it's not all uphill, is it? There's ups and downs throughout our careers, everybody's career, and you know, I'm just conscious of those guys listening and being curious to, you know, when you did hit the tough times, how did you pull yourself out? How did you pull yourself through those things? What attributes did you call on to help you manage those times?
Yeah, they're probably the bits that I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
You think about the trophies or the rings in particular with grand finals and your international caps, you know, they're brilliant. absolutely some wonderful times. And the memories and friendships that you get from those have become far more important than, bits of stuff that you can put on the wall or you stick in your safe or under your bed.
Yeah.
So I do think the tough times are probably the bits that you may have seen this last 3 weeks, because I had the worst experience when I was 19, got left out of a Challenge Cup final.
Right.
Which, recently we've had a couple of players who miss out on our Challenge Cup final with Leeds in 2020, young players who actually probably weren't even born when it happened to me. Do you know what I mean? That's how long ago you're talking. I don't understand that. What, you've been through it as well? Yeah, absolutely I have. I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly what you're thinking. I know exactly how your family are, because I've been there. So that at the time was the worst thing ever that happened to me, but the best thing as well. So dealing with that and learning from it at 19, and again fueling the fire, was a great experience. Very, very tough, but a great experience. And then my career's littered with them, Dave. Do you know what I mean? Like losing finals, losing big games, not being picked for international squads. Losing that World Cup semi-final in 2013 was absolutely horrendous. And the criticism that comes from that is really, really tough. But I think you learn to live with it, and you understand that actually it's sport, and unfortunately bad things happen in sport from time to time, and you get tested, and you have to do something about it, and that comes an inner strength, absolutely, an inner strength to be able to say, well, even in the times, if we go back, there's poor experiences, but then the criticism in particular, you have a choice to make. You can pull the covers over and lie there and hide away, or you can try and do something about it. And all my career, I thought, I've had those moments absolutely where I've laid my bed and pulled covers over, but you learn very quickly that don't help, and it just festers and makes it worse. So you've got to front up. You've got to get out there and get on with your life, because ultimately it's sport, and you look at what we've done in the last few weeks in particular, and that in sport, that's people's lives and families who are being ravaged by a terrible disease. And actually, when you put that into perspective, losing a cup final, of course it matters, but it doesn't matter to what they're going through.
It's a perspective, isn't there, of some sort? It seems that it's brought a perspective to everything this last few months. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and let's move on to this last year. I was recalling, me and you were due to go for a coffee about a year ago to this day when the I don't know if you recall that at all, but when the diagnosis for Rob came out, and you were in the car going up to meet up with Doddy, weren't you? And what a year it's been. How have you managed it? What has the year been like for you? Given that there has been some highs but clearly managing this whole personal thing going on for you, what's it been like?
It's been very reflective. I think the first few months were really, really tough to sort of understand what were going on with Rob and get your head around it, and understand actually what it meant and the ramifications of it all. And you do put yourself in his shoes to try and understand. I mean, you can't truly understand what he's going through, of course you can't, but to try and have some understanding of what is going on there, and his outlook, and his friends, his family, his kids. Trying to understand that has been difficult. And then I think very, very quickly, like that car journey, myself and Rob had, I remember it for the rest of my life. But there were some things we discussed there that really really gave me the drive to try and help. Now, I know you obviously want to help a mate, of course you do, but understanding what the future could look like for him, the short-term future, meant we needed to do it quickly. We couldn't sit on our hands and go, we'll give it a few months. And nobody knew COVID were going to hit like it did in March, April time. So the club were fantastic. That old team that we played with pulled together and said, right, let's move quickly. Let's put some stuff in place. You saw Jamie Jones share his testimonial game with Rob. and we had that game against Bradford, which is incredible. The Bradford lads paid for the tickets. Bradford's support was unbelievable. The whole rugby league world supported Rob. Sky Sports did a great job. Then we had the big gala dinner for him where, Gareth Southgate's there, Josh Warrington's there, the Brownlee brothers, Will Greenwood, Kenny Logan, just some wonderful UK sporting stars, world stars came out for Rob to support as well. So that happened very quickly. And then Rob went to the Super Bowl, which that old group of friends called in every favour we could to get him there. And it was one of those memories that we wanted to make sure he had. Yeah. And then COVID hit not long after that. So you then start trying to weave your way through with being a mate and raise money and awareness for him, but actually just be there for him as well. And then you go through that patch where it was full lockdown and he wasn't in the vulnerable category, but should have been. So you understand that actually, although up until July, I wasn't tested because we weren't back into that elite environment. So up until that point, you'd never know because so many people are asymptomatic whether I can visit or not. So you don't visit. So you're trying to communicate via phone, but his voice is going and it's text messages and
kind of manage that.
There's that many people texting him that he's slow to get back, which you completely understand. He's trying to live his life as well. So it wasn't until sort of mid-July when we started to get tested again that I was comfortable going seeing him because I knew it was sort of you could get it any time, but at that time you got tested, you were COVID free. So, but then I suppose the challenges that came at work, like everybody else has faced, but being in that elite environment, the protocol was changing weekly. Yeah. The standards were changing weekly. We were all having to change and be really flexible and agile with some of the decisions we made. And then the cuts came in and juggling some of that. And
Kev, how did you manage to give your attention to Rob and the work that you were doing outside of the day job, as it were, and also keep a focus on keeping the day job going? It must have been a huge amount of weight on you.
Yeah, I think I got lucky because Rob was still an employee, still is an employee at the club. So actually, part of my job is to make sure that staff are looked after and managed properly. So, that was an extension of it. The club gave me the full support in all of this. Spending time with Rob and making sure that bit was looked after. I was probably in a really fortunate role to be able to do both. Don't get me wrong, of course it's demanded, but I think even if you just said, I'm working in sport, we all know how demanding working in sport is. You can't take your phone off. It's 24/7. Yes, there's some unbelievable highs with it, but actually day to day, it's just a slog. So, and then you're balancing that with your own family. I've got two kids, a 16 and a 12-year-old who have gone through lockdown themselves, who were back at school. My eldest Jack's in his GCSE year and all what comes with that. And you're trying to make sure everybody's fit and healthy, mentally everybody's fit and healthy. So actually lockdown for sort of those weeks we were in it, the first couple were brilliant because it just felt I could completely clean my head. I ran every day, kept fit, spent a lot of time with the family. And we went back sort of July and I didn't take a breath because the games were thick and fast every 3 or 4 days. And then it's still different protocol changing. Everybody's on cuts. Yeah. And then the time that I just spent with my wife and my kids is completely ripped away. So you've gone from having all that time together to none again. So the same challenges that everybody's facing, Dave. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand this. It's been a heavy year for everybody. It's been tough. It's been challenging, and we're still here smiling, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I'm just curious though, Kevin, in terms of, again, what attributes do you think you've pulled on from your playing career that's really helped you in this last year?
Probably the same. I'll go back to the same three. Working hard, being honest, and having humility. Yeah. And I think what really helped throughout all of that was having some empathy, understanding actually the cuts, had a huge impact right across the sport, right across society. They've made an impact. People have lost jobs. Yeah. So having some empathy for people from a financial perspective, and then it's bigger than that. People's health, people are losing loved ones. You've got that whole vulnerable category of people who need to be really looked after and almost locked in their house. But then what comes with that, the negatives of being locked in your house. So I didn't see mum and dad for a large chunk of the year. Didn't see a lot of friends for a large chunk of the year, because as soon as we go back in July, you've got to make some decisions around the environment we're working in and making sure COVID doesn't get in, or doing your best so COVID doesn't get in. So I'd say the people you see and following government guidelines have been really important for all of us. So we probably had to be really strict. But mental toughness has certainly come into it, being able to stick on track and go, we've just got to get this done, and we've got to get the season finished, and we've got to keep improving. We've got to make sure that players still enjoy coming into work. But also be able to balance that with spending enough time at home, which has been a really, really difficult challenge.
And what I've noticed from your journey, and and this is one of your greatest attributes, is you give people time. I'm curious about how do you give you time? Because you're giving a lot at the moment, and I'm just thinking, how do you look after yourself?
Exercise. Exercise. If I'm honest, that's the time when if I'm going for a run, I can leave my phone. And I consciously didn't get an iWatch that had the connectivity that you can have without your phone. So running certainly helps me. It helps me clear my head. Walking as well. Spend a lot of time walking with my wife. Love watching the kids play sport, although that's been cut back a fair bit. But that's the time that I get for me, and it's like most things, we all get to choose, don't we, how we use our leisure time. More often than not, mine is based around trying to keep fit and healthy, but besides that, just probably typical to most people, like spending time with people I love and care about, going for meals, socialising. So a lot of that has been ripped away from us, especially if you think about where we are in Oldham. We were we went in that deepest, darkest lockdown, and then I think we've been out for 3 weeks of the worst tier, or the worst whatever. So from March till after Christmas now, everything's been shut around here. So life has been very, very different. So there are other parts of the country that I've had different things to deal with, but I reckon we're up there with some of the hardest hit throughout the last 6 or 7 months.
Is there anything out of this last year or so that you would wish to take forward, that you've really learned about yourself and your environment, that you think actually would like to do more of this? If so,
very much so the charity stuff.
I
just think it's been so rewarding for all of us, to forget the money, because the money is sort of mind blowing, and the support has been mind blowing, but actually the awareness we've generated, and I think sort of when you think about friendships, to be able to show Rob how much we care and respect and love him, and that's been a big driver in a lot of this. Before we sort of set out with the MND Association and on the back of Rob's diagnosis, I'd done a lot for Prostate Cancer UK. And that's something that's really close to my heart as well. So being able to give something back is certainly something I'll continue to do, and try and help people. That's the big thing that's come out of this. Whether I stay in sport, whether I stay in rugby in the future, I know where my career should be. I know it should be trying to help people. And I say this regularly when we discuss, actually, if I'd not been a rugby player, what would I have done? I'd have loved to have been a doctor. And I think that stems from the fact of, well, one, I don't mind blood and guts and all that sort of stuff, but I actually quite like helping people. So, especially those who are less fortunate, Dave.
Wow. And in a funny way, have you not been doing that most of your career anyway? I know you've been playing, but do you not feel in a sense that you've been helping people around you? That captain role is about helping people. There's always seems to me from throughout your story, there's a sense of helping gene in there. So the people around you and your colleagues and your players and everyone, that's what you've been doing, man.
Well, yeah, I think subconsciously, yeah. I think when you're part of a team, you have to give some of yourself. Probably more than you get back, actually. So you have to be, but I think whilst you're playing, you are conscious of, probably more than I am now, but the selfish nature of performance.
Yeah.
And understanding that if I don't get myself right and I don't get myself into a position where I can perform on a weekend, I'm not doing the right thing for the team.
But how does that balance, Kev? How does that balance with that kind of sometimes, doing the right thing by other people, but actually, I'm really curious of that. What are the attributes of a high performer that actually might get in the way of you being a top leader?
Yeah, I think it's really finely balanced. That
Yeah.
I think it's really finely balanced, and I've seen a lot of people get it wrong. I've seen a lot of people absolutely get it right as well. So again, I've picked a lot of that up from learning and throughout my career. I think an understanding of that balance is really important, and being able to read people, not necessarily just listening, but body language, facial expressions. They tell you exactly what they think of you, and I think at certain times, certainly whilst I were in that team environment, I'd never put myself before the team, never.
Yeah.
Away from the team environment, I probably got some of that wrong at times. So, albeit trying to do the right thing for the team, but it ended up being too detrimental to me. And I'll give you an example. So the last couple of years, my whole drive was, I'm 34, 35, wanted to make sure I'm the fittest in the team. So when I should have been resting, I was flogging myself, and I got that wrong. And that's what I look back on now and go, well, if I'd have done that a little bit differently, would I have been as mentally fatigued as I were at 34, 35? Because actually, there's nothing wrong with my body at all. Could I have been one of those who played till I was 37, 38? And I don't regret it at all, Dave, because you go on that other path, do you know what I mean? But actually, there were some things that I probably should have done differently, and they were around selfishly trying to make myself fitter so that I was better for the team, but it was detrimental to me.
Amazing. Great stuff. Well, Kev, I just want to ask you a few little bits around the 7 in 7. But before we go to that, you've mentioned about you potentially becoming a doctor if you hadn't been a rugby player, and being a helper. And a lot of that seems like you kind of knew that already. That there's a real helping gene within you. Is there anything over this last year though that you've really found out about yourself that's new, that you thought, God, I didn't know that about myself?
Probably more. Yeah, I've really missed holidays.
Right.
I get asked this the other night. Actually, I really missed holidays. Really missed being able to switch off for a few days. And I'm not greedy. I don't want to be able to switch off for 3 weeks, but 2 or 3 days in a row where there's not an email or there's not a call with somebody with a huge issue, and I can just actually devote myself to Jen and the kids, and that's the bit we've missed. Like everybody this year, we've booked holidays at different times. We've had little blocks where we thought we'll be able to, because we're back to trying to fit them in and around the season again. So they've all been taken away, and even recently we were going to go away. We're due to go away just after Christmas, and that got changed, and the flights got extended. So it meant we were coming back, and it meant I'd have missed the start of pre-season, and Jack, who's in his GCSE year, misses 3 or 4 days of school, and you're like, well, someone's telling us not to go, so let's just not bother. And then you see everything that's on the news the last couple of days, and you think, well, it might have been a blessing in disguise. That's been the big thing, probably for us as a family, because when you look at when you have kids, you probably get, most people have 1 holiday a year, let's say a big family holiday a year. I know some people are very lucky and have 2 and 3, Dave, like yourself.
Oh, I wish.
No, I know you'd say. But if you think you only have one big family holiday a year, there comes a point where your kids don't want to go away with you. So whether that's 17 or 18 if you're lucky, some get a little bit more than that, of course they do. But for some it might be 14, 15 where actually you're uncool for them and they don't want to go away with mum and dad. So when you balance that out and you think, well, we probably don't have many left as a family. And so given the fact that your relationship changes with your kids as they get older anyway, and that's certainly something I have missed, and actually getting some downtime where, yes, I will still go on exercise day, of course I will, but actually with not a care in the world, being able to sit and enjoy the family and the sun is.
Well, and this last year, it's been compounded, hasn't it? Well, for me, it has, in terms of actually you really begin to realise what you value, when it has been taken away from you. Often you don't realise that until you've not got it or you can't have it. And I think there's certain things, even human connection, stuff like that, you're starting to realise that when you can't see people, you begin to realise what you start taking for granted, don't you? And putting a greater value on it. So I think it's a really, really great point. Kevin, you mentioned there about, the importance of your family and spending time with them. A cheeky question really is, in terms of actually, how do you relay a lot of this sort of stuff, and what do your kids and your family think about what you're doing? And what values, what characteristics do you kind of impart on them through what you're doing, do you think?
I don't know, Dave. It's probably a question you probably should ask them, but what you see is what you get. I'm like everybody else, I get a lot of stuff wrong, but I'd like to think I'm the first to say I'm sorry, or that weren't good. I'm not happy with it. Certainly through, I think what I found was when you finish playing, you have all these unbelievable memories that you share, and there's a lot of people who are proud of you. So certainly your mum and dad, and I have this debate quite a bit with Jane about she don't feel proud of me, she's proud of the kids, but actually she thinks very differently of me and what we've done. And I think some of that is because of the time she has invested in it as well. So it's almost a shared investment. But it becomes very different, and I think certainly the last month, if you think about what we've been able to do, sort of as a family, the support that the three of them have given me has been as good as any time as when I was playing. So in many ways, it's taken me back there, but they're all 5 years older. And all sort of, but understand.
They get it a bit more, kind of stuff.
They understand the why you're doing it, and they get it. So the support almost been incredible.
Oh, what a great story. And bringing us up to the last month or so, you've obviously, there's been a lot of press and a lot of great attention towards the work for MNDA. What's been your highlight, Kev, over the last week or last month, let's say, over the last month? What's been your highlight?
Good question. Probably I enjoyed all the 7 days. I really did. They brought different challenges. Day 6 was horrendous, a really tough day. But I still enjoyed it.
What was tough about it?
I was just going to get onto my highlight then. We saw Rob on day 5. So Rob was we bumped into him near the mural in Leeds on our first loop. Complete surprise. He was trying to dodge a bus, and he was there. Amazing. So that were incredible to see him. But when we finished, he was at the finish line. So there was a lot of other people there as well. So once they started to float away, just to be able to have a couple of minutes chatting to him and give him a cuddle and spend a bit of time with him. So up until that point, I've not seen him for a couple of weeks, and to really, for some of the guys who were taking part in the challenge who had not met Rob before, it was really important for them as well.
Right.
You know, and all of us got, emotionally it was tough, but all got a glow about us, all come away thinking, you know, and at that time the support was immense, the donations are flying up, and the whole response has been incredible. But actually to know why we had that number 7 on the back of our shirts, to know why I sent them a text and they all come back, "You're crazy," but yeah, I'm in. Was brilliant. So that moment, but what that did, that kicked on into the following day. I got home day 5, and Jane said to me, "You look absolutely knackered. You look absolutely shot." And up until that point, you know, I felt all right. You know, there were bits of my body that were giving me a bit of stick, but nothing where I thought, I can't do this. And I didn't think that all the way through. But so I woke up day 6, and we were back in Leeds. I had no sleep for about the 6th night in a row. Tired. It's get out of bed at 4:30. Same routine, same breakfast. Jump in the car, head over to Leeds. Quite a quiet journey, that one. The quietest one we had.
Yeah.
And then it was absolutely bucketing it down. Get out the car, start to get undressed again, get ready to go again. And I just think emotionally day 5 had taken a lot out of us. And sort of, we were that close to touching it. We were day 6. We knew we had the same route to do in Leeds. We were a massive hill in there after 37k. Thankfully, we changed the route actually, but
it was
a massive hill in there, which we weren't looking forward to. But it was one of those, we just needed to get it done. And Jamie Jones ran with us that day, who's, as I've already mentioned, my best mate. To have him there was brilliant. And you don't understand, until you're in something like that, those friendships matter so much, because the little chit chat you have just take the time away. But also the people we saw on the route, there were a lot of people from the club supporting us. And then some fans came out on Kirkstall Road. The firemen lined out, but on both routes, which were brilliant. So those little facial interactions when people just throw you a smile, although they didn't get much back from me,
it spurs you on a bit, doesn't it?
Actually energised us, and all through day 6 we're getting updates on where the fund was. But yeah, it was the toughest one. From the minute I took my first step out of Headingley, my hip were killing me.
Right.
So as well, so all the others, I had little bits of niggles throughout, but never from the start, never from the first step.
Kev, do you have a message to yourself that gets you through those painful parts? You know, when the hip's killing and you've got, you know, miles ahead of you. You know, what do you say to yourself?
Well, there were no turning back, because there was that much money in that pot. I didn't want to consider any alternatives. I'm still adamant, like, still trying to get us just to slow down a bit and be a bit better with time, be a bit more disciplined with it, because it weren't, we didn't get any medals for coming in at 3:30 or 3:35. Nor did we get any medals for coming in at 4:01. We just had to be under 4. So, just telling myself that. I never once thought about quitting. Never once. It never even entered in my head. I never got to the point where I was in that much pain that I thought, I just have to stop. I was never there. And that were being buoyed by the support. The team I had with me were brilliant. Who recognised at times when I was a little bit flat, and they just picked me up. They started to sing and tell a joke and just a little banter, which was brilliant. But it was. I'm trying to think the most. There were times throughout every day where I'd choke up. I had no idea why. Now, obviously, when I'd seen Rob at the mural on day 5, I choked up just after that. So I understand that one, but some of the others, I don't have a clue why I choked up. Just your body just letting you know, I suppose, how much you cared about what you were doing. And the toughest part of the whole challenge would have been the training. And when I say the training, not the week after week, because we put it together 6 weeks before we did it. But a month before we started, I did 3 and 3 as a practice. Someone had sort of planted the seed. A mate of mine had done the 10 in 10 at Brathay. I just planted the seed and said, there's this guy who's done 10 in 10s. He recommends that you run a 3 and 3 in prep for the Brathay stuff. So I just went, oh, you crazy. I'm not doing 3 and 3. If I'm going to run 3, I might as well run 7, was sort of my response. And then I slept on it. I slept on it a couple of nights, and then everybody thought we're mad. And I said, I'm going to have a go at it. So the hardest bit of that was day 2. So the first real time that you back up after a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, you're setting out, you're sore, you're tired.
Yeah.
It's end of October, it's freezing here, it's cold, it's wet. You're setting off in the dark, it's 7 a.m, and there's all that question, what am I doing? Why?
Yeah.
This doesn't matter. What are you doing it for? It matters in a month, it doesn't matter now. So to actually get
psychologically, it's even harder, that one. Yeah.
To get through that, day 2 in particular, and I weren't there for long. You're only talking maybe a couple of minutes spell where you start to question some bits, but very, very quickly snapped out of it and found myself at the bottom of an hill and found a burst of energy and got to the top and like, right, well, we're on here, we're just going to get it done. And that was the best thing I did. To be able to do 3 and 3 was, after that, although I was sore and tired, in my own mind, I knew when it came to it, we'd do it.
And Kev, you used that phrase, that earlier on about the kind of, I think it was on day 5 or 6, it's like the semi-final kind of stuff, and you can see the end point. You've now done the 7 in 7, haven't you? And is that the cup final, or how do you go again? How do you set yourself up to go again, and will you go again, and what will you do if you go again?
Yeah, we'll go again.
Yeah,
we'll go again. I just think I don't think we'll raise as much money next time. We might not get anywhere near it, but
adding to
awareness. The awareness has been incredible that we've created. But then selfishly, the challenge it gave me to be back in a team, to be with some really close mates and not create's wrong word, to enhance some friendships that were already in place. Next time we get to meet up, which we can't, we're not even able to celebrate it. So the next time we're able to, and we can celebrate it, be able to go, we did something good there, which is pretty unreal. So there's been some flickerings almost straight away. What's next? And I think I've got some ideas myself, but we won't be running 7 marathons again, I can tell you that. That's once in a lifetime, that, Dave.
And I was going to ask you that. Is it because it was so hard, or is it because you would just want to do something different?
Yeah, because I want to do something different. I'll do it again. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
If someone had stump up a decent amount of money now for Rob and the MND Association, I'd get out there now. Oh, in fact, I'll go now.
Yeah.
So I will run marathons again.
Yeah.
Certainly, the plan was to always to try and run 2 a year for as long as I can for different charities and keep myself fit and give myself challenges, which I've done ever since I finished playing. This year was a very different year, and I've run 13 marathons this year.
Have you?
Whereas the plan was always to run 2. So I don't think I'll be allowed probably the time which lockdown gave me to run a lot. I also understand that we need some family holidays when we can.
Yeah.
But there'll certainly be, there'll certainly be 2 marathons next year. And I think at this stage it'll be for the MND Association. I'd still like to do some bits for Prostate Cancer UK. And then if it was something over, I think the 7 in 7 is certainly a theme that we will run with. It's long enough for us to have a brilliant time together.
Yeah.
But not too short that it's gone like that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's sufficient challenge in there. There needs to be a challenge for you, doesn't it? Because it's that's what gets you going, isn't it? It needs to be a stretch, by the sounds of it.
If we can't think of anything good enough or that would grab people's attention enough, if we said we'd go for it again, but our average time had to be quicker, that'd be something I'd certainly be up for.
Yeah.
But I think the reason we put 4 hours on it was we didn't think we'd grab people's attention if we just went for a stroll, and we got 7 done. Yeah, brilliant. But without a time restriction, I don't think it would have quite cut it. Certainly wouldn't for me. And the team we had thought were crazy. Just thought, you're bonkers. But they fully understand now why.
Well, you certainly did it, and you did it with a huge amount of grace and poise and humility. You know, the words that you used here, hard work, humility, shone through, didn't they? Very, very clear. Kevin, you know, it's just been amazing just hearing the story back, and also hearing a little bit about your journey to the importance of the people in your environment, your parents, you know, your teammates, you know, listing them as long as you're around there, weren't you? There's so many people that have had a massive impact on you. You know, and it's just incredible being part of this little story, and I just wish you well for whatever comes next. And I'm really excited already. I don't want to ask you what it is. I'm just looking forward to hearing out what it is, because I think you really have captured certainly my imagination, but you know, millions of people's imaginations. It's ripped clear from the people even I speak to and I've heard from, and a lot of people are right behind you. So congratulations, and I hope you hear that, because you've got such a humble nature. And you know, I've desperately tried hard to try and find out more about you, and you're so very good in making sure that it's a team effort here, and I recognize that, because that's one of your key skills here, isn't it? Is that actually you don't do things on your own, you do things with people, you know, and I absolutely recognize that. So, you know, thanks ever so much. If people do want to find out a little bit more about what you do next, how might they be able to do that, Kev?
Yeah, just thanks, Dave, there for really kind words, and thank you to anybody who's sent a message of support, who has helped create the awareness that we've got, who's donated in some small way. I can't thank people enough. You know, the donations are still kicking over, which is unbelievable. But I think where I was really lucky in some of this is Phil Daly, Leeds Rhinos media manager, who is a real good friend of mine. You know, he's been there as long as I have at the club, so right. A real good friend of Rob's, was right front and centre in sort of the challenge we did. And without him, I have no doubt the funds and the awareness wouldn't have been created. So what Phil has been outstanding at is letting people know where we are, how we're getting on, how things are ticking over, and I think certainly it'll come through the club, because the club actually are as deep in this as the rest of those players, because Rob was one of our legends, and we want to do him proud.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, you spark off, you know, the power of sport in this, because, you know, I know you've talked a lot about the Rhinos and how they've been a central part to this, but it's really galvanised the whole of not just rugby league, actually, a lot of people from around the sporting landscape, and you know, it plays to the work that I'm really keen to do, and you know, you sharing your story really absolutely puts front and central the power of sport, you know, and probably my very last question, and I'm going to ask you this, is has your view changed, Kev, on performance sport? You know, given the year that you've had, you know, and the role that you've played, we talked something about perspective, and I just wonder, you know, how does it sit now?
Yeah, I think it certainly be guilty of this myself. I think we wrap so much around athletes, and looking for the smallest of gains. You know, you've seen it with Dave Brailsford, the marginal gain stuff, but actually the big elephant in the room is the person, and we spend a bit more time helping the person. I think those marginal gains become absolutely minute and negligible, and actually we have a better chance of affecting performance. So that'd be my big take home from this year, and certainly understanding that people respond differently to different types of adversity, and being able to try and harness it and still get the best out of them has been really important too. Yeah.
Well, let's end on that note, because you know, the quote which is next to the mural of Rob there, in terms of, you know, in a world full of adversity we must dare to dream, and you know, and I think what you really epitomised throughout this year and your career is actually about the importance of dreaming. So whether you're dreaming through playing sport and having those aspirations to do what you do, but also daring to dream in raising money and doing good things for MND or for whoever, you know, let's leave with that positive thought, hey?
Brilliant. Thanks, Dave.
Kev, thanks ever so much. Look after yourself, keep in touch, and you know, we're right behind you, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
I must say, I feel really honoured to have spent an hour or so talking with Kev about not only the race and marathons and the great fundraising he has done for MND, but also exploring some of his key influences, some of the highs and lows, and also the role his family plays in supporting him be the best version of himself. Now, if there was anybody who truly lived to the notion of challenging themselves, their mind and body to see what it can do, then Kev is that person. I was drawn to his 3 principles of hard work, humility and honesty, and my experience of him that these are not just words that are spoken, they are very much lived. I also had a real sense of determination and purposefulness in what he does and how he talked about it. Kev also mentioned that it has been a reflective year for him, and true to form, he hasn't failed in making me reflect on the role I play at work, the importance of friendships and friends and family, and crucially, how I turn up in the world. He also reaffirmed for me the role sport can play, helping both individuals, families, as well as communities. The Leeds Rhinos team he and Rob Burrow were a part of clearly came together through the sport, but their relationships are more than that. The sport was the conduit that brought the people together. They had success, experienced failures, but along the way had many laughs and really looked after each other. What has been amazing to see is how, when needed, the sporting rivalries could be put aside with a clear goal of making a difference to an individual suffering from a cruel disease. As Rob said, which I love, in a world of adversity we must dare to dream. Kevin's recent challenge and exploits during a particularly difficult time in history for me showed there is hope and it's worth dreaming big. So with that in mind, and in my attempt to help you on your way to dreaming big, here are a few questions you may wish to consider. What are the key principles you live your life by? And secondly, Kevin said friendships matter. What are the quality and depth of your friendships? Who would do a 7-in-7 challenge for you? And secondly, who would you do a challenge for and why? There were so many reflections and questions that came up for me. These are just 2 of them. Now, dare to dream and continuing making a difference, then we all need to take responsibility and action. This can be a win-win situation and you can gain as well as give and possibly experience the satisfaction and joy Kev has felt over the past month or so, even whilst a real great friend is so unwell. On that note, if you'd like to donate to MND, then have a look at the show notes for Kev's Just Giving page. The funds raised are in excess of 2.6 million already, and I'm sure the Sports Stories community of listeners can play a part in increasing that amount further. If you are keen to follow further events or even understand more about the great work Kev and the Leeds Rhinos are doing, then take a look at their website and social media. And lastly, I want to bring us all back to the idea that we need to look after ourselves first and foremost in order to be able to help others. Take some time to reflect on the podcast, possibly listen to some of the previous stories, and take some time to plan for the future. As you may now be aware, at Sports Stories we are keen to continue offering inspiration, education and transformation. We will continue to provide great learning resources and content at the Sports Stories Academy and can provide you with tailored coaching and mentoring support to help you become the best versions more often and with great skill. In order to find out more, take a look at the new Sports Stories website at www.sportstories247.com. Please also tell your friends about Sports Stories, consider subscribing, and lastly, please share a review. These are both really helpful and guide individuals that can also gain value and benefit from our content. It now just leaves me to say thanks again to Kev, thanks to you, the listener, and I really look forward to you joining me for another amazing Sports Stories episode next week with Kath Bishop, author of The Long Win and also former Olympic rower and diplomat. So from me, Dave Levine, have a great week, dare to dream, look after yourself, and I'll see you soon.